At Community Waikato, it's really important that we are able to see or show that our work makes a difference, that we're making an impact in our region. And so we got a lovely surprise when we went to our 10th anniversary, when we held our 10th anniversary last year, and people stood up to tell us about the difference that our work made. And one of those people was Guillaume, and he talked about the support we'd given to the Refugee Orientation Centre and how appreciative they were.
When I think of Guillaume, I think of this man with this immense passion for family and community. When I first met the group, it was in response to a request that came into Community Waikato to support them with funding and with setting up their legal entity. And I can remember going around to their house that invited me to come to their home. And I was quite hesitant about it because I hadn't worked with the Congolese community before. And whilst I'd had worked with some other ethnic organisations, it was quite a different thing to be working with a refugee group, because I knew some of the experiences that they would have encountered prior to coming here, and it felt like this immense responsibility. But when I was invited into the home, they just enveloped me. It was this amazing feeling, and it's, I think, why I remember it so distinctly. And there were family everywhere. And they drunk every word that I said, and that really did add to my sense of responsibility. You know, that they wanted a context for building something that was important to them in their community in the context of working in New Zealand. They were clearly very, very intelligent people, but they needed that local knowledge and local experience. And I left feeling, whoa, you know, how am I going to give them what they need? Because, you know, they were just so onto it. So we've been working with ROC since 2005, and we've engaged with them in working with them on a variety of issues. But one of the things for us was, in the early days, was to actually be able to make the distinction and to be able to articulate what the difference was between the needs of migrants and refugees, and looking at the gaps in services that there were between what was being offered for migrants coming into the country and refugees, and in particular the Congolese community. I'd worked with migrant groups before, but this was the first time I'd worked with a refugee community, and whilst I understood that there was a whole different set of circumstances that they were dealing with, it was the first time that I'd actually physically worked alongside a group. So I was really struck with the passion that they had for their own people and trying to make the transition to a life in New Zealand when they had come from circumstances where they hadn't chosen to be here. They had had to leave their own homelands in circumstances that were very painful. So I had to be really sensitive around that, and that's, I guess, where I felt like it was a big job, but my experience was with these incredibly passionate, generous people who I could relate to, in the sense that I could see why they needed something for their own community, and if I looked at my own iwi, if I was coming to a foreign country, I would feel a lot safer and supported if I knew that my own people were going to be there to support me. And that was really the difference I could see between some of the existing services which they were accessing and getting support from, and the reason why they needed to set up something that was specific to their community. But one of the things that I knew was going to be hard for them was to be able to convince funders of that. And I think that's where we were able to make quite a difference for them.
The good bit about working with Guillaume is he takes on board, he thinks very carefully about what he needs. He comes along, he looks for the information, and you know he's going to take it away and implement it, and that showed up very clearly in his funding applications. But if he has questions or things he wants to know, many people do, they come and they ask things, but actually they don't go away and make change, or they only make a temporary change and then go back to their other ways of working. Guillaume takes it on. He's looking for the answers, he's looking for improvements or ways of doing things, and then he implements them within his organisation, which makes him a great person to work with because, you know, he feeds into what you're doing. You can see you're making a difference because he goes out there and implements that difference.
I agree with what you say, Sally. I think when Guillaume comes to us, he's just ensuring that what he is has been done correctly. He just wants confirmation that he's doing the best he can do for his community and that his applications are comprehensive and reflecting what he's trying to achieve.
I remember when I first came to Community Waikato that our IT advisor was working with the Refugee Orientation Centre on their computer suite that they wanted to build up, and it was such an amazing project for them to be doing, and they were so passionate about it because they wanted to use the computers for multiple things, and one of them was obviously for their young people who had nothing in the refugee camps that they came from, didn't have technology at all, and were expected to have it if they were living in New Zealand. So we set them up with 20 computers, and we gave them some of our chairs because they couldn't stand at the computers. They had, you know, so that was part of the services that we offered them over those years. Quite a complex variety of services that we've offered them over the years, including policies and processes, all sorts of different aspects as they've needed it, and it helps us to see that we've been able to make a difference for them, but the real difference came from them, and that really fits in with our unearthing the wisdom.
Guillaume and I are doing a Unitec paper together. It's about peer mentoring and conflict management, that kind of thing. We have to do really quite what I consider to be a big assignment. It has two parts to it, and you can choose, and you can either do a heap of readings and write up, 1,000 words per reading, or you can work with a few other people and do some peer mentoring exercises. Guillaume told us that he's going to do both because he's not sure which one he'll actually finish. He's interested in both, and he's going to do all the readings and then attend the peer mentoring and then decide which one he's going to write up. I wouldn't do that. I'm just going to do the peer mentoring.
So I still manage the Tyndall funding. Something I've noticed with Guillaume's applications, they've gone from strength to strength every year, better and better, to the point now I use his structure and how he writes them. I use that as examples for other organisations around what sort of information we're getting and how the best way to put your story out there for best outcomes for your funding.
Almost like that thing of, if only they knew what I'm learning. They think we're the ones offering, but actually we're learning so much. And so that co-creation has been a fantastic journey, I think, for all of us.
This is one of the stories that illustrates not only the complexity of the work we do, but also that we're in it for the long term, so that when an organisation comes to us, they know that they can go away and do some work and come back and we'll still be here, and they can go away and so on down the years, and their needs change, so they're always coming back for something different. And in this case, with this story, it's been a wonderful example of our organisation growing and developing at the same time as the Refugee Orientation Centre has grown and developed. And one of the things that strikes me is that as part of our training, we've brought the Unitec diploma to the Waikato, and Guillaume has been very much a part of that. And you see the leadership that he brings grows along with the work that he's doing with other people in the Unitec course, and recognition of what he's doing. So for us, this is a story that illustrates the significance of the work that we do and how important it is for the people that we work with and the impact that we can have within our region.